On a very cold night in the snowy mountains, many dead warriors are lying down with a few slashes on their bodies. The place was in chaos and blood is everywhere. Only two warriors remain standing, one barbarian and a knight facing each other. The knight asks him, "How are you able to escape the restraints with just brute strength alone?" But the knight knows that it was useless speaking to him since his language is different. Two warriors are facing each other, and the place was like a complete hell. They know in that night, only one will survive. Using the barbarian's language, the barbarian introduces himself as Urich of the Stone Axe tribe. Although he only understands the word Urich, the knight told him that he acknowledges him as a warrior with skill, even though he was just a barbarian. He shouted, "I am the Empire's knight Porgal Arton." Urich told him, "Porgal Arton, I will remember your name." Urich rushed towards Porgal, and Porgal's plan is to use his shield to knock the sword of Urich. But Urich throws his sword in the middle of the fight. Porgal was so shocked, but when Urich throws his sword, he became so fast that he was able to find an opening on Porgal. Urich told him, "You cannot defeat me," then punched his face so hard that made it bleed. Then he breaks his fingers, which made Porgal shout in agony of the pain. But Porgal got an opening in that moment. He uses his shield to push off Urich. Urich got pushed off on the place where he throws his sword away, getting time to grab it to fight back. With all of his strength, Porgal uses his shield trying to bash it on Urich's head. The difference between the two is that Urich is much faster and was able to slice up Porgal easily. Urich told him that his skills are not bad at all, but it was only that he met the wrong opponent and deliver a finishing thrust on Porgal's neck. Urich could feel the extreme coldness of the mountain after his battle with the knight. He fell off the ground due to the dizziness he felt because of the battle and the temperature of the environment. Only the sky could tell that this young man will become something in the future. Going to the beginning of the story, Urich was talking to the shaman and telling her that what he is saying is not real. The shaman told him that he will become a great warrior, but Urich told her, "You're only speaking nonsense, old hag." Urich told him, "I don't believe in sheets like shamans or fortune-telling. All the things that come in your mouth are because you drink unknown medicines." The shaman told him that she saw a vision that he becomes a warrior of light, but Urich jokingly told him that she should retire. The shaman told him that the son of the chieftain will be jealous when he will go hunting again with the warriors, since his name always comes up when discussing who will be the chieftain. Urich told him that he does not want to become a chieftain, and told the old hag to take care of her body, and then he leaves for the hunt. His fellow warrior was waiting on him on the other side for hunting, waving at him to come faster. His fellow warrior named Vold told him that he is already late from staying with the shaman again. Urich told them he will not be able to sleep well if the old hag dies alone. Vold asks him if he was so sure that they will be going to the Sky Range Mountain today. His fellow warriors told him that beyond the Range Mountain is filled with souls, and if they cross the mountain range, they might not be able to come back. Urich told them that the chief's son caught a large wolf, and they need to go up to the mountain range to catch bigger prey and will not be left behind. Urich told them that if they don't want to go up, they can back out, but will be called a coward. That made them fire up, and told Urich that they are not cowards, and already planned to go up in the mountain range. There are only questions that are on the head of Urich as they continuously climb up the mountain. In his mind, he asks, what is there beyond the Sky Mountain range? Does a world for the deceased really exist, as the shamans and elders said? Do we all become souls when we die and fly over the Sky Mountain range? His tribe's mate asks him if he has no thoughts of becoming the chieftain. Urich told him that he is not interested at all. Urich only wants to compete because he was annoyed because the son of the chief acts like something special. Vold could only tease him, and that if the son of the chieftain will become their leader, he will have no choice but to follow him. His fellow warriors could only think that Urich is bound to be the next chief. But while walking to the top of the mountain, Urich notices something strange. There was an arrow that was shining and aiming at them. Urich shouted at his fellow warrior to go down and cover, but arrows are raining towards his fellow warriors, which made them bleed from the shot. Urich ordered his fellow warrior to load their arrow to fire back at the enemy. Urich helped the fallen warriors to bring them to a safe place. Urich had no idea who is the one who fired at them, it's some other tribe or something. But when he looks at the arrow, he noticed that the arrowheads are sharp and elaborate. He had never seen something like that in his whole life. Seeing that he could only conclude that this is the work of the people, he really doesn't know or something beyond the mountain. A knight who wears full body armor made up of iron was ordering his fellow men to attack, and men using crossbows were the ones under his command. Urich knows that they are in a disadvantageous situation. The enemies have a longer range weapons and have the upper hand because of their position. Since he is the one who ordered them to go deep into the mountains, Urich wants to take responsibility for his comrade. That is why he ordered them to go down while he was holding off the enemy. His comrade angrily protested that he cannot leave Urich alone because he treats him like his brother. But Urich angrily told his comrade named Vold that it is better for him to be alone because they will become a burden. He ordered them to go back to the ground. Urich told him that although dying together is what a brave warrior should do, but saving their fellow brothers is much more important. Vold carried the wounded warrior and left Urich, telling him that he should come back alive. Urich told him that the shaman always called him as the warrior of light, and that is not a place for him to bury his bones. After all, he was Urich, the warrior of the Axe tribe. Urich can't figure out the location of the enemies. That is why he plans to throw a spear and approach them as quickly as possible. That is why he jumps and rushes to the enemies, trying to find a better place. He takes a spear and aims for the location where the arrows are coming from. He throws it to their location with precise aim and strength. That is when someone shouted out from pain, and then bingo, he located where the enemy is. He bashes out the plants and leaves using his axe that covers the location of the enemy. But while rushing towards the person that was hit, he heard a conversation of the men in a different language. He also saw that the men are wearing clothes that he has never seen before. He thinks that they are the human beyond the mountains. He asks, "Did you guys come from the other side of the mountains?" Although Urich doesn't understand what they are saying, he was angry at them because the moment they laid hands on his brother, the only thing that awaits them is death. But there was someone who was shouting. It was the knight who ordered his men to lower down their bows. His men protested because they can just shoot down the barbarian right now. But the knight named Sir Portugal told him to not shoot because they need to capture the barbarian alive. Sir Portugal wants to gift Urich to the king as a commemoration of the new discovery of the land. Seeing that Sir Portugal's body was covered with an iron plate, Urich knows that their kingdom has a vast amount of iron to refine. Sir Portugal throws his shield, thinking that the axe of a barbarian can't pierce the armor. Urich told him, "I don't know what is going on, but seeing as you throw your shield, you must be confident that the armor can protect you." Sir Portugal uses the Empire swordsmanship blade holding to fight Urich. But that made Urich angry, since his enemy is holding the sword backward, thinking that Sir Portugal was looking down on him. Since they are surrounding him, Urich now understands that the knight and his men are trying to capture him alive. It was the first time that Urich felt getting insulted like that. Sir Portugal rushes towards Urich, aiming to bash him with his sword handle. But Urich just throws his axe away toward the enemy. With the perfect aim and throw, it was a bullseye. The axe hit Sir Portugal in the head. Sir Portugal was so shocked that the axe got wedged in his visor. He can't believe that a mere barbarian could think and aim for his iron visor when he threw his axe. Sir Portugal could only curse Urich by throwing him off guard. Sir Portugal got angry and tries to attack Urich again with the handle of his sword. But with the speed and agility of someone who lives in the jungle, it was easily dodged that made Sir Portugal shock. That is when Urich finds an opening, when Sir Portugal loses his balance. He rushes towards the back of Sir Portugal, giving a fatal kick on the knight. The impact of the 360-degree kick was so strong that made Sir Portugal throw upward. Sir Portugal was thrown down, which leads to a great opening for an attack. Urich runs towards him with an aim to kill him by slashing him with his axe. But the knight's men decided to shoot Urich with an arrow to save Sir Portugal. Urich was hit in the back with an arrow. They throw a rope at him so that he will be strangled and lose his strength in the process. Thinking that he was able to hit him with an axe in the head while fighting, Sir Portugal could only admire Urich's skills. Even he was just a barbarian. A barbarian who defeated a trained knight is something commendable. Urich told him, "You only got lucky, you iron plate wearing man." But through the continuous journey of going up the mountain, Urich could only fall to the ground. He was really hurt in the fight, plus the altitude changes of the travel. Seeing the journey that they are going in, he is now sure that they are really the people that came from beyond the mountains. He was happy that there is a different world beyond the Sky Mountain range, and that it is not the world for the souls of the dead. But Urich realizes that he will going to freeze to death at this rate. This wretched cold is the reason why the tribe warriors were not able to cross beyond the mountain range. The men of the night were quite startled, because Urich was laughing alone. They only think that he is a lunatic. But Urich was snickering because he just breaks out from the rope with just only his bare strength. They were so shocked and alarmed that they even dropped the glass that they were drinking. They were so scared of the barbarian, and one of the soldiers was shouting while running, "The barbarian is free." Urich told them, "Feel free to brag about in the afterlife, that the person who killed you is the great Urich of the Axe tribe. With the strength and skills of Urich, they were all slaughtered by him. And as we know, in the beginning Sir Portugal was even killed after their fight." Urich now was trying to bid goodbye on the Sky Mountain range and his motherland. He is happy that there is still a larger world beyond the world he lives in. He is now going to travel to the unknown world that is waiting for him. In the countryside, there was a man who was running for his life. He stumbled into a stone that made him fall. The man who was chasing him was laughing at him since he fell for his recklessness. The one who chases him wants to cut off one of his fingers to give him a lesson. The man could only beg for his life. But while he was begging, he notices something. It was Urich who was wearing the clothes of the knight he killed, and he was also using the sword of the knight he defeated. The delinquents who gang up on the man told Urich, "What are you looking at? Go pack off." Urich told him in the barbarian language, "You guys won't understand my words, but just keep doing what are you doing since I'm curious." Two of the delinquents were confused since it was the first time that they heard that language. The leader told them that maybe he was just a bumpkin from the south. He shouted at Urich's face, "Do you want to die here? Just piss off." Because Urich was annoyed by his action, he twisted his head in a flash. His friends shouted, "Max," calling their leader's name. They are panicking since his neck was snapped off, and Urich just told them that they are the ones who started. Two of them attacked simultaneously in Urich to avenge their friend. But in a flash, both of them were thrown off, and one of the necks of the other was also snapped. The man that was chased a while ago was so scared. As Urich is approaching him, Urich drew a house using his fingers and told the man to bring him to his tribe. The man led him to his own town, which made Urich shocked, seeing how big is it. "We will call this man as Donau," and he told Urich that the city that he saw was called Ankara. Urich could only say that it was such a huge town that it takes his breath away. Urich was in awe seeing so many people there are in one place. Donau thought that he was a traveler, but seeing how he acts, he concludes that he doesn't seem to know much at all. In the bar, Donau shouted if there was anyone who could understand Urich's language. Some of the people in the bar think that he is a northerner, seeing Urich physics, and some men even shouted if he was someone who came from the other side of the mountain range, but Urich didn't understand anything. Urich could only think that if these people know that he came from beyond the mountain sky range, their attitude might change, so he decided to be careful in telling where he came from. Donau told him that they will understand him big time if they could find an interpreter. He shows the money and told him that for now, he will buy him a drink. Seeing the coin that was delicately made through workmanship, he was amazed. And also, he was confused when he saw them exchanging the coins with beer, because it was different in the barter system that their tribe follows. He was intrigued by the thought they use currency, and not bartering. He saw one man who carries an axe. He realized that the weapons in the city is much stronger than the ones that they are using. Since he really wants to take that axe, he asks Donau on how he can get the axes like that. Donau asks him if he was talking about an axe, and he draws a line that explains he can buy an axe through the coins. He wants to take advantage of Urich's skills in fighting. He asks Urich if he wants to make money, since he knows a place to earn it. He brings him to an arena where people earn through fighting. Urich told him, so it is only fighting using fist. Donau draw a sign that represents no killing is allowed, and he continuously reminds it to Urich. Urich jokingly asks him, what will I do if they die with only just one tap? But Donau always reminds him to control his strength at all. Now, Urich knows that everything beyond the Sky Mountain range starts with money and ends with money. The fight between him and his opponent was about to start. Urich knows that all men in the city are weaker than him. Even if they are gladiators in the arena, they are so slow compared to the tribe warrior of the Sky Mountain range. He was just toying with the opponent and grabs his hand. Then he kicks him in the abdomen so hard. Urich could only conclude that place isn't a place where you bet your life on the line, and there are no real warriors there at all. But the audience was shocked that the champion was down in just one hit from Urich. He could only think about Sir Portugal, whom he fought in his last battle. A real warrior who crossed swords with him. A warrior who is prepared to face death. Someday, he wants to meet a warrior like that. Urich was wasted from drinking too much alcohol. Donau wake him up since it is time to make money. He told Urich that they can buy an axe now. In the fight, everyone was cheering for Urich, who was still undefeated. Donau was happily massaging his back, as Urich is his money machine. Seeing the opponent, Urich could only conclude that this is another weakling that he will face. He just wants to end it fast by punching him in the jaw. The opponents release a strong punch first, but Urich could just read and evade it. But he was shocked when that punch go in and hit him in the stomach. He was so sure that he could dodge that, but the man got him cornered, releasing a continuous punch on Urich. He could only say that his body had gotten rusty. He got so angry for the embarrassment that he had. That is why he punched the man so hard, and when it was checked, the opponent was dead. The owner of the place angrily shouted at him to go out and not show off in the place for a while, since he did not follow the rules. Urich was so angry that he cannot avoid the simple punch, and he cannot control his strength, even it was just an ordinary hit. He could only question himself if he did just descend from the mountain to just become a drunkard warrior. He looks at the sword, remembering the fight of him and Portugal. There were no excuses or justifications, only the survivor was righteous. He remembers the reason why he turned his back on his homeland and go to the other place. It is to see more things that he didn't know that actually exist. What he felt in Ankara is like a final rest, but a warrior should only rest after they die and not while they still draw their breath. Urich thanks Donau. Because of him, he became accustomed to the Ankara. Donau bring him to the arena once again, and in the arena, Urich was confused because there was no audience at all. The man told the merchant that Urich had actually a strong experience in fighting, especially using sword. The merchant could only agree that Urich is worth buying for. Donau told them that they don't need to whisper since Urich cannot understand imperial words. Donau cheered for Urich in imperial language. He told him to show what he got so he can get a lot of money. Urich's opponent told him as a newcomer slave, he will teach him a lesson. Seeing the wooden sword, Urich knows that they only want to test him. His opponent rushed towards Urich to slash him up, but he was so slow for Urich that Urich was able to get his wooden sword. He was confused that his sword was suddenly missing in his hand. Urich was just laughing at him. He asks his opponent, "Do you want it back?" Then he throw his wooden sword on the side. Urich told him, "Come at me anytime." Because of embarrassment, his opponent got so angry that he wants to kill Urich. He jumps at Urich, aiming to slash him up, but Urich was just toying with him, easily evading his attack and making him shove. Urich told them that he doesn't want to play childish games, and that he was someone who holds the sword at the age of 5. The merchant happily greets Urich and told him to stop, since he already sees that Urich is a capable individual. Donau sold of Urich with 15 million seal, and he happily receives a whole pack of money from the merchant. Donau told him, "Urich, look at these gold coins. I'm rich now." But that made Urich angry, so he took the sword from one of the guards of the merchant. Then he cut off the hands of Donau, who was holding the gold coin. Donau was shouting, seeing that his hand was cut off. Using the imperial language, he told Donau to open his mouth so that he can cut off his tongue. Donau was shocked when he learns that Urich can understand the imperial language. Donau told Urich to forgive him just this once, since they are besties in the past. Urich told him, "Speak nice and slow. I can't hear you well if you speak fast." Then he tortured Donau until he died. He gives back the sword to the guard of the merchant and told him that his sword is well maintained. Seeing what happened to Donau, the guard could only shiver while he takes back his sword. Realizing that Urich was a crazy bastard, the merchant told Urich that it was only a misunderstanding and that they will take their leave. But Urich told the merchant that he will make him a deal as a free gladiator. The merchant told him that a free gladiator can take half of the earnings in exchange for board and food. The man introduces himself as Horus, who is a slave merchant and a gladiator middleman. Urich also introduces himself. Horus welcomed Urich to the Horus gladiator troupe. In the early rising morning, the young gladiator talked to Urich and asks him if he was a northerner, seeing his physical appearance, but Urich told him that he has no relation to the north, he was just bad at imperial language. Urich asks if that big guy over there is a northerner. Then one of the gladiators suddenly interferes and told Urich that he has a good eye for identifying the northerner. He told Urich that the big man is Sven, who is a gladiator slave for 3 years. He told Urich, "Nice to meet you, newcomer." Urich replied, "My name is not newcomer, it is Urich." The man introduces himself as Donovan, who is the main attraction of the Horus troupe. Donovan told him that he must be a barbarian, since he knows that smell of barbarian for fighting them countless times in subjugation. He told Urich the uncivilized tribe can't wash away the stench of the beast. Urich just mocks him and told him, "What is this kind of self-introduction, blah blah blah," while annoying Donovan. Urich told him, "As a barbarian, you guys insult people too much with your tongue. You guys are only doing that because even if you do it your tongues wouldn't get cut off. But what you are saying are all just bullshit." Horus could only stop the two from annoying one another, so it will not escalate more. Donovan told Urich that he was just lucky. Urich also said the same. Urich was protesting in Horus since he only got a small money, even putting his life on the line. Horus told him that if he gives all of their shares to anyone, even the cows and cats could become filthy rich. Before the fight, Sven told him that he should put on a helmet and a chest plate while fighting. Urich replied, "So you are my partner. I don't want to use any of that since those things will only make the body heavy." Seeing the sword of Urich, Sven told him that he quite got a good sword, which is made from imperial steel. He told him that it was an iron that the imperial family has a monopoly on. It is much more precious and stronger than iron, which they called steel. It was a sword that can only be attained by an imperial knight. Hearing that, Urich could only conclude that Portgal is one of the imperial knights. Donovan replied, "Do you think someone like him could carry a weapon made of imperial steel? Probably he was just scammed somewhere." Before the fight, Sven asks him where he came from, but Urich told him that he will go faint if he knows where he came from. Sven told Urich that the citizen was excited seeing blood, since the empire rarely goes out of war. Urich told him, "Old man, go to the right." Sven replied that he is not that old yet. Urich told him, "Then cut off your beard." Their opponent told him that he cannot believe that they only carry one sword at all. But Urich just rushes and jumps toward the opponent like a tiger. Urich easily stabbed the opponent near his neck, which made the blood spurt out. Urich told his enemy, "This is why armor that makes your body heavier isn't good. It will make you react slowly. Then the crowd cheered, seeing how high Urich jumped. On the other hand, Sven was laughing while his opponent is approaching. He has no guard up, like inviting the enemy to slice him up. Urich asks him if he needs help. But Sven was so fast that he crashes the enemy using his axe in the blink of an eye. Then crowds shouted in, cheering. Sven told Urich that it is too early for him to help, and he is like someone who is at age of his son, if he was alive. Urich was curious why someone like Sven, who has guts and strength, is still living as a slave. Another battle began, which is 2 versus 1, but in the end, Urich still dominate the match. In the bar, this young man told Urich that Sven chose to be a slave, because Horus saved his life when he was adrift in the sea and dying. In the Northerner perspective, it is enough to swear loyalty. The Northerners believe on the Hill of Swords. That is where great warriors wait. It was a heaven where they can drink and eat meat, as well as fight with others to test their skills. Northerners are afraid of dying of disease, because for them only a warrior who died in the battlefield can go to the Hill of Swords. Urich remembers that elders told them that only souls are on the other side of the mountain range. But they were wrong. Urich could only ponder on where souls go when they die. He asks the young man, where do civilized souls go when they die? The young man told him that their souls will return to Ru, the sun god, and they will be reborn. The young man told him that almost all of the people in the empire is the follower of the sun god Ru. He told him that he should convert to Sol, which what their national religion called. Urich told him that what he believes in is the sky, in which the sun is part of it, so what he believes is much bigger, which made the young man laugh. The young man introduces himself as Bachman. The day after, Bachman invited Urich on a drink to have a talk. Bachman told him that it has been a while since he joined that troop, and he asks him if he had gotten the gist of what is going on between the gladiators. Urich told him that it is about the Donovan faction and the extra. Bachman laughed and told him that among the 21 gladiators in the troop, 10 are from Donovan's faction. Bachman told Urich that Donovan was once a soldier under the famous blade master Persian. Whether it is true or not, it made Donovan the most famous gladiator in troop. The real problem is that Donovan's faction has his hands on the match. They choose the most easy and profitable one while the other gladiators take the troublesome one. If a new standout gladiator will appear with as much influence as Donovan, then he won't be able to tamper that match as he please. Bachman knows that he lacks skills, which is why he told Urich that he is banking his expectations on him. Urich told him, although he did not like someone who sneakily use him for themselves, he told Bachman that after he stepped foot in the civilized world, only Bachman was the first person to treat him well, and he will repay that kindness. While Donovan and Horus were talking about the matches, Urich suddenly intrudes and said that he will take the last match and will spray blood on the place, which will make the people pass off. Donovan was angry that a nameless gladiator wants to look at the match list. Donovan also told him that the last match was the most important. Urich said that he knows about it, that is why he wants to fight 5 people inmates, which will spark the curiosity of the people. Horus told him that if he dies in the lame way, it will only make the troop go bad. Urich told him that he had never lost in a fight, even in 5 people or 10, but Horus told him that there is a big difference between them. Donovan told Horus that he will let Urich have the fight, a 5 versus 1 fight like he wants. Horus was angry that Donovan agrees to the match. Urich replied to Donovan, "Wow, I did not know that our famous gladiator had a generous heart. Thank you." At the arena, there are many rumors about the 5-on-1 fight of Urich. They hope that it will not end boring and one-sided. At the side of the arena, one of the gladiators was telling a story about the sea. It was like a lake that is as wide as the sky, and you can never see the end of it. Urich was in a rage, saying that they must be lying since he had never seen an ocean before. His fellow gladiators were laughing at him, saying that he is really a bumpkin. They told Bachman that he must tell Urich about the sea, since he was from the harbor. But Bachman got angry at Urich since a 5-on-1 fight is a suicide mission. He was guilty, because he thinks he made Urich do that. Urich told him that they have no idea who he is and where he came from, and they are not someone who will back down from an enemy. Urich asks him what will he do if he wins. Bachman told him that he will follow his judgment without any complaint. Then Urich told him that he must follow him then, since he will win. Donovan on the side was spouting, as expected of a barbarian spreading stupid war paint on his face. Urich knows well what it means to fight 5-on-1, he could die any time. But for him, he has no plans to die yet, and he will definitely win. Horus told Urich that it was his turn now, but when he sees him, he saw a very eerie mood in the place. Urich is now ready to fight with his war paint ritual. He puts on. Horus was asked by the owner of the arena, why was the match like that? A lot of people will be disappointed if the last match will not be fun. Horus replied that win or lose he will not be disappointed in the match. The other merchant told him that he was just bluffing it all, but Horus's eyes are not wrong, he will be going to bed in this fight. In the arena, many of the crowd shouted like the face of Urich is like a monster seeing blood on it. But Urich was happy since the weather is good for his fight. 5 of the inmates were ready to slash up Urich anytime since the reward is that their imprisonment sentence will be reduced if they manage to kill him. Bachman is panicking seeing that the enemy of Urich knows how to fight. Sven told him that seeing how they hold their weapons, they must be criminals who volunteered for sentence reduction, and most of them are fighters. Donovan said, serves him right, he is now dead in the waters. 5 of them gang Urich, seeing what they are doing. They seem not to now know how to attack cooperatively, and they are only going for numbers. They are just gauging the situation. None of them have the intention to attack first, Urich told them. So none of you will take the risk to charge in. Then he said, I will make the first move then, and rush towards the enemy lines. One of the inmates shouted, he is attacking first, be sure to block him. Urich knows that he can do it with that sword, that is why he sliced the enemy and the shield was broke. And then he stabs the enemy in the chest. Urich was so happy seeing that the imperial steel is really durable. Then the remaining 4 simultaneously attack Urich, but none of them can hit him at all. Urich gets his axe, and then he throws it to the ground, bouncing in the enemy direction. The enemy was hit in the neck. When the opponent was looking at his fallen comrade, Urich take charge and slice him up, breaking even the iron helmet. Any sword would have been dulled in the fight, but Donovan could only be shocked that it was really an imperial steel. He cannot grasp how did he get the sword when Urich was just a barbarian, not a noble. Bachman was cheering on the side, and Sven told them that it would be a different story if they are a trained soldier, with just the war paint. Urich just dominated them with pressure. Only 3 are remaining, but Urich still controls the flow of the fight. Urich suddenly jumps again, so high, aiming to slash up the enemy. The enemy weapon was thrown off, and that is when Urich followed up another slash, making the enemy bleed. There are only 2 left. And they are just thugs who are no match for a warrior like Urich, he told him. Come at me. It is not like you have any choice. Then the 2 of them run toward him. But for Urich, it was just a boring fight. And then he slices up the 2 of them, one by one. The match ended and 5 of the bodies of the inmates were lying on the ground. The crowd cheered so hard, and even Horus and his fellow gladiators were so happy that Urich won, except for Donovan, who was scratching his head. At the end of the fight, Donovan approached Urich, and Urich told him that he was now the main attraction of the troop. Donovan congratulated Urich as he had become the rising star of Horus Gladiator troop. He offers a hand then, which Urich accepted. After that fight, Urich together with his tribe found a very fertile land. Now, they do not need to starve anymore. That is when Bachman wakes him up, and he suddenly rise in his bed. It was just a dream. Their next fight will be the Nobles Gladiator champion, but Horus told them that there is a slave that they intend to offer on the fight of the Nobles champion. Horus told them that their fight will be in the first half. Donovan insisted that he will fight against the arrogant gladiators. Horus told them that it will be a 3-on-3 fight between the Pride troop, and he wants Donovan and Urich to fight together, but Donovan told Horus that if they fought together, one of them will going to end up with their head smashed, and Urich also agreed. Since Donovan decided to give his last match with Urich, Horus decided to give the decision to Urich, and Urich suggested that he wants to team up with one slave. He wants to fight with Bachman and Sven. Urich looked at Horus when he was writing to record the information, so he was thinking that he wants to learn it as well. Before the match, Urich asked Sven why he still remains a slave. Sven said that is because Horus gives him a chance. His soul might be stuck in the world of the living, and he has nothing else to wish. And he only wants to die while fighting to go to the Hill of Swords. When Urich asks him about his family, Sven replied, I lost everything, both a place and a family to return to. Sven told them that there is a legend across the Eastern Sea. There is another land, and there is a tale about their ancestor who got there and come back. They say that they saw people who have black hair and black eye who lives there, which made Bachman and Urich shock. Peas. They might be Asian like Japanese or Filipino. Bachman jokingly told him that he got there and he had a shipwrecked and he became a slave. Sven told him that he only wants to die while fighting and go to the Hill of Swords. Bachman told Sven that at the end of the sea is a cliff and you will fall to your death at the world's edge. Urich told him that he doesn't care about the sea because, in the first place, he doesn't believe that a sea is large anyway. Bachman and Sven told him that it is very big, that you cannot even fathom it. Before the fight, Urich could only think about the sea. He wants to know if there is something about the sea, but he won't know unless he goes there by himself. While the enemies want to crush Urich and his friend, Urich could only think that the world is large with a lot to see. In the pub, everyone was cheering for Urich, especially because he can easily aim the apple in the head of one of the soldiers using his axe. The owner of the arena told Horus that the citizen really loves Urich as a gladiator. Horus thanks him with joy. There is one noble who was named Trios. He told the arena owner that he also had a champion who is good with axes. He calls his champion named Mogdi and introduces him to the owner. Mogdi knows that Urich's skills in axe are much more proficient. Trios told Mogdi to try to embarrass him. Bachman told Urich that if a noble asks you to throw, you must follow his orders even if you are not good at it. Bachman told Urich that maybe Mogdi is better than him. Urich told him that there is no better than him in using an axe. When Mogdi throws the axe towards the person with an apple in their head, he misses and nearly hit the head of the person. Many people in the pub are now talking behind his back that he is the shame of the family who ruins his father's business. Many people talk behind his back that he is the person that will cause harm. Horus also knows that the young master is a pain in the ass, and it is not better to be associated with him. Horus told Bachman and Urich to go back since it will be troublesome for him, as he sees Urich as someone who embarrassed Trios. In the morning at the arena, Mogdi was in the arena trying to fight the lion while shivering. Mogdi was surrounded by 2 lions. Urich told Bachman that the noble must be really pissed since his condition is not good. He added, looking at how he is moving, he must have a broken arm and his leg must be fractured as well. Bachman could only think that Urich is a monster since he sees and tell that from far away. In the end, Mogdi was just fed to the lions in the arena. The next fight was Donovan's match, and he won. Bachman told Urich that Donovan is a person who is cruel but fights standardly. He suffocates his opponent like a snake before killing them. Now, the Horus troop was on a journey, and Urich told the leader that he will fall off if he dozes like that. Horus told him about his experience in holding the Gladiator troop. It was the first time that someone is like special. He knows that Urich will not stay as barbarian forever. Urich told him, "You praise me too much even though I am just a barbarian." Urich told Horus that he really wants to live in the place, and he wants to own land, and that made Horus shocked. Horus could only think if the sun god Ru could forgive him if he takes that barbarian at his side. Urich asks the leader, since he knows how to read and write, he wants him to teach him. Horus told him that it is not something he can learn in a day. Urich offers him a 10% cutoff on his pay. Horus told him that he must find him at dinner, and he will teach him how to write his name. His fellow gladiator offers him a game, but Urich told them that he has no money. His fellow gladiator laughs at him and called him a scholar since he wants to learn the imperial language from Horus. While going around the campsite, Urich felt something unusual, but he thinks that it was nothing, so he continued to walk. Horus asks him if he really wants to learn how to read and write, since he has no use for it. Urich told him that it is for him how he uses it. Horus told him that he will be lucky enough to memorize all the letters and even write his name in just one night. But after a while, Horus asks him, "Urich, you never learn how to read and write." Urich replied, "I will not be here right now if I know." But after a few tries, he managed to memorize all of the letters. He even writes his own name. Urich told him that he can master it easily at that rate. Horus could only praise his memory. He heard that barbarians can learn really fast, but for that fast, Urich is really impressive. But suddenly, there was an arrow that was shoot and hit the head of one of the guards. It was an ambush, and their tent was set on fire. Everyone was told to wake up and pick up their shield and sword. Horus was shocked about the ambush. Urich told Horus to snap out of it and that he needs to hide first. But Horus told him that the gladiator troop is different from a merchant group and there is no way a bandit would attack like that. Urich can't see where the enemy attack was launched. He knows that without Horus the management of the troop will be over. That is why his safety is their #1 priority. But when he looks back at Horus, he was on the verge of dying and was crying tears. Urich told Horus to stop panicking and just look at him. Seeing that the arrow was deep in the neck, there is nothing that Urich can do. Urich told him, "Listen to me and snap out of it. You will going to die soon. You don't have much time left, and all you need to do is just pray to your God. Don't shake, and prepare to die. People who believe in your God reincarnate. So let us meet again one day. You have nothing to fear." Horus. Urich grabs the blood of Horus and put it on his face. He said that he comes from across the mountain range. He is Urich of the Axe tribe, who promises Horus that he will take revenge. Urich told him, "The people who attacked us will not live to see another day, so you can die peacefully without thinking about revenge." Then he closes the eyes of Horus, saying that he will keep his promise. Now, the barbarian of the Axe tribe is ready to hunt down the one who killed his friend. Donovan was upset because of the ragtag team he has. He told his comrade to get their ass together and arm themselves if they don't want to die. He acts now as a leader and told his comrade to wait for his signal to attack. The numbers of the enemies are unknown, and the best thing they can do is to retreat. But for someone who got their ass beaten, they could not run away or their pride will be hurt. Donovan told Giggs to throw the spear, and they will go close. When the arrow stops flying, Donovan realizes that there must be not much enemy, because if they outnumbered them, they will fight head-on from the start. They face the enemy head-on and kill them one by one. The place was in chaos and swords are clashing with one another. He was confused if they are thieves or mercenaries, but it was useless to think about it during the fight. Seeing trios ordering them to kill all the gladiators, now, they know that the noble was the one who was mastermind, because he blamed them for one simple humiliation he experienced. Donovan wants to capture him and use him as a hostage, but it was not easy, and most of the slaves and cowards have run away during the ambush. That is when Sven enters the battle, chopping down the enemy one by one using his axe. And then Urich, who was shouting while slicing down the enemies. Bachman was so happy that Urich was there as he thought he run away. Urich told him, "Run away? Don't make me laugh," and then he slashes the enemy's neck he was holding. Donovan told Urich to capture trios. Urich told him, "How dare you give me orders, Donovan?" Then he throws his axe towards Donovan, which made Donovan stun. But the axe was aimed at the enemy at his back, and the blood of the enemy spurt down on Donovan's face. Urich stands in the middle of the fire like a grim reaper in the pits of hell. He uses both his swords and axe at the same time, killing the enemy one by one without hesitation. Trios could only shiver in fear as his men was slaughtered one by Urich. Urich told him, "Who's this? You look familiar." He captured Trios and then headbutt him so hard, the remaining soldiers loses their will to fight and drop their swords one by one. Donovan told him to just take away the money. Bachman also agreed, since even for a self-defense, it is bad for them to kill a noble. Urich told them, the gladiator team is disbanded and Horus is already dead. He is someone who I promised to avenge and kill all those attackers." Then he stabbed Trios. Bachman could only cower seeing him kill a noble. The remaining mercenaries told them that they will not tell anyone and work under them, but the source of trouble must be eradicated. So they were all executed one by one. They gather the corpses and burn them. They offer the prayer to the sun god Ru. Apparently, in this place, people believe that their souls will go to the sun and be purified when they die, and then return to be reborn. He wonders if Horus will be reborn somewhere. Urich could only wonder while looking at his dead comrades. The sun god's life cycle and the northerner's hill of sword. Urich was so curious where he will go when he dies. Hearing the opinion of others, some says that they will go their separate way, and some says that they cannot go back since they don't have earnings yet. But Urich decided that from that day, he will become a mercenary.